Vladimir Putin's ascent to power in Russia was a well-calculated move. Born in Leningrad in 1952, Putin's early years and education provided the foundation for his later career. Putin's rise started in 1996 when he transferred to Moscow and joined the presidential security team. In 1998, he was promoted to director of the FSB. Boris Yeltsin, who was president at the time, nominated Putin as prime minister in August 1999 to guarantee himself a loyal successor. Vladimir Putin was born on October 7, 1952 in Leningrad, Soviet Union, to parents Vladimir Spiridonyovich Putin and Maria Ivanovna Putina. Spiridon Putin, who was his grandfather, was a cook for Vladimir Lenin and Josef Stalin, a Soviet leader. Putin's early years were tough, as two of his brothers died in infancy. Putin's father, who was a conscript in the Soviet Navy, participated in the war during the Destruction Battalion of the NKVD during the Second World War. Putin started school at number 193 Baskov Lane near his home and then St. Petersburg High School 281, where he focused on the German language. He went on to complete his law education at Leningrad State University and graduated in 1975. During his time at university, Putin was required to join the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, where he later met Anatoly Sobchak, an assistant professor who taught business law and co-authored the Russian Constitution. After he graduated, Putin got a job with the KGB and was trained at the 401st KGB school in Okhta, Leningrad. He served in counterintelligence, where he supervised foreigners and consular diplomats in Leningrad. After his graduation, Putin was posted to Moscow for further training at the Yuri Andropov Red Banner Institute and was posted to Dresden, East Germany, where he was an officer in charge of liaison with the Stasi, the secret police. Putin came back to Leningrad in 1990 and was employed at the International Affairs section of Leningrad State University. He was an advisor for international relations to the mayor of St. Petersburg, Anatoly Sobchak, and later the head of the Committee for External Relations of the mayor's office. Putin climbed up the political ladder, including being the first deputy chairman of the government of St. Petersburg and the organizer of the St. Petersburg branch of the pro-government Our Home Russia Party. The 1990s were years of decay and corruption, and Russia's economy was in critical condition under Boris Yeltsin's presidency. Yeltsin was the first president of Russia from 1991 to 1999. He initiated economic shock therapy, which changed Russia's command economy to a capitalist market economy. However, this initiative failed and resulted in financial crises, fluctuations, and inflation, which improved the condition of a few rich business leaders who gained most of the nation's property and assets. The people became restless as the economy got worse. The removal of price controls and capitalism across the country resulted in high unemployment and poverty levels. Yeltsin's approval rating declined quickly, and his government came under a lot of pressure over these devastating economic policies. During this series of occurrences, Yeltsin developed some health complications, including heart issues. It was also reported that he battled alcoholism, among many corruption scandals. Yeltsin's health deteriorated, and the electorate was not in his favor. In June 1999, the search for a suitable successor began. Yeltsin's ministers looked for a loyal and efficient leader to stabilize Russia and ensure its retention of power. In the end, Yeltsin selected Vladimir Putin, who was the director of FSB at the time, as his prime minister. He claimed he was the only one capable of ending terrorism. This move was seen as an attempt to secure his legacy and ensure a smooth transition of power. Little did Yeltsin know that Putin would soon become the dominant force in Russian politics. Putin's appointment was the starting point of his rise to the top. As prime minister, Putin initiated a military campaign in Chechnya, labeling it an operation against terrorism. His ability to handle the situation increased his approval rating amongst the people. Yeltsin shocked everyone on December 31, 1999, by resigning from his position and thus proceeding with Putin to act as president. Putin's handling of the 1999 Russian apartment bombings further solidified his position. The 1999 apartment bombings and Chechen War is a vital phase in Putin's rise to power and a story worth looking into. In September 1999, waves of terror struck Russia when terrorists attacked Bunyashek, Moscow, and Volgograd. Over 300 people were killed and more than 1,000 were injured. These bombings, along with the invasion of Dagestan, sparked the Second Chechen War. Vladimir Putin, the then prime minister, did not wait for the crisis to develop fully. Rather, he leveraged the situation to demonstrate his leadership prowess and gain more popularity. Putin began military operations in Chechnya, promising to eliminate terrorism and regain order in Russia. The Second Chechen War started on September 23, 1999, when Putin signaled an air raid on Grozny. The official investigation of the bombings blamed Chechen militants for the act. However, many people believe that the government was involved, and the bombings were staged in order to garner support for the war in Chechnya and to help Putin be elected for the post of president. Journalist Alexander Zilin had predicted government-inspired terrorism in Moscow based on a leaked document from the Kremlin. Moreover, an experienced Duma deputy, Konstantin Borovoi, was informed about a terrorist act in Moscow by a Russian officer of military intelligence. As specified in the Russian constitution, Prime Minister Vladimir Putin became the acting president of Russia, taking over Yeltsin's duties. This was a masterstroke on the part of Yeltsin, who had handpicked Putin as his successor and wanted to safeguard his interests. Putin's appointment as acting president set the stage for the 2000 presidential election. On March 26, 2000, Putin won the election with a landslide victory, securing 53.4% of the votes. This was the start of Putin's presidency, which was to dictate Russia's fate for the next couple of decades. World leaders such as US President Bill Clinton responded to Yeltsin's resignation and Putin's appointment with a measure of optimism. Clinton applauded the results of Yeltsin's work, which changed Russia from a communist state to a democratic one, and she shared the desire to continue cooperating with Putin. At the same time, Secretary of State Madeleine Albright focused on the continuity and openness of Russia's transition. As Putin began his new term, the world was closely observing the actions of the new Russian leader and waiting to see what he would do with his country. Vladimir Putin's presidency can be seen as the starting point of a new period in Russian political evolution, the period of centralization of power and control. As soon as Putin was in office, he introduced several steps that would help consolidate the state and reunify the nation. His program article, Russia at the Turn of the Millennium, outlined his vision for a robust and democratic Russia, emphasizing the need for strong state power and social accord. But over the years, Putin has centralized all powers, and the freedom of the opposition and media has been reduced. He gagged the opposition, and to a significant extent, his government controlled the media. The Russian government also dictated the economy because Putin's friends managed many sectors, according to many undercover journalists. This concentration of power raised concern with human rights organizations, and most people started to call Putin an authoritarian president. Putin's rule has been described as Putinism, a unique blend of economic liberalism, nationalism, and authoritarianism. His government's actions, such as restricting civil liberties and manipulating the political process, have drawn comparisons to fascist and communist regimes. However, Putin is still quite loved amongst Russians, at least the older ones, who credit him for restoring stability after the tumultuous 1990s. However, he has re-established highly authoritarian policies and top-down control in Russia, limiting the Kremlin's control over mass media and the internet and renationalizing strategic industries. Putin's leadership policies have influenced Russian domestic politics. He abolished the right of regional governors to sit in the Federation Council, the upper house of the Russian parliament, and re-divided the Russian Federation into 7 new federal districts with heads appointed by the president. Putin also attempted to rein in the oligarchs in Russia by closing some media outlets and opening criminal investigations against some of the major players. Putin has been a politically powerful person in the world politics and an absolute decider of the Russian Federation's foreign policies. Putin opposed US President George Bush's decision to stop the use of the 1972 anti-ballistic missile, but rather joined German Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder and French President Jacques Chirac in opposing the US and British decision to use force against Iraq. Putin has also developed Russian relations with China and India and maintained a balance between the East and the West. Numerous complaints have been raised about Putin's presidency, as concerns about human rights, media freedom, and authoritarianism preceded it. However, Putin remained a significant force in Russian politics and was instrumental in determining the country's destiny. Today, Russia remains one of the strongest nations in the world. Are Putin's policies strict, or are they the reason for Russia's dominant strength? Thanks for watching. For more interesting videos like this one, follow our channel by clicking the subscribe button. If you like this video about Putin's ascent to power, please hit the like button.